Welcome back to our dialogues, Francoise. We've been exploring historically the fact that thinking with the heart and mind is back, and what is what we're looking forward to, the genesis of why we did it in the first place, and then what we're looking forward to about the fact that we've got this extended version that we're going to be offering later on this year, because we've breathed some breathing space into the program, and we've also spent some time thinking together about what participants can look forward to getting from participating in the program. And today we're turning our attention to this question, so I'd love to ask you and see what you think. Why is attention so uniquely important, do you think, to thinking with the heart in mind?
It is uniquely important to thinking with the heart and mind, but not uniquely important in life. I mean, it's ubiquitously important in life, I think, attention. And yet we take it so for granted, the fact that we can pay attention. And we spend very little time learning the skills of attention, because attention and paying attention is actually a skill set. But yet it's so foundational to everything. I mean, we know that if you're not paying attention when you're driving, you can cause some serious harm. If you're not paying attention when you're creating a signal group, you can cause some serious harm. So our capacity to pay attention really, really matters in all facets of life, from leadership down to the very prosaic aspects of our life. And it matters not just that we pay attention, it matters how we pay attention. You know, we can do so much with our attention. We can really narrow it and focus it. We can widen it and expand it. We can hold a much larger field of attention. And learning that skill set is an incredibly powerful skill set to learn, because when you start to grapple with it and you start to identify the ways in which you can grow or develop your capacity to pay attention, all sorts of things start to change in your life. The quality of your conversations, the quality of your relationships, the quality of noticing things that are wondrous and beautiful, a bit of birdsong, the warmth of the shower on your back, or just the crunch of gravel under your feet, which might be a really pleasant sound. And so it imbues life with a richness and yeah, you know, a richness and a quality that if we aren't paying attention, we we you know, we rob ourselves, I suppose, in a way, of
Mm.
of that potential and that capacity. What do you think, Trisha? Why is thinking with the heart and mind so uniquely important to the program that we're offering?
Mm. Well, I think where this question takes me is almost back to where we started in terms of why we wanted to do the program in the first place, why it matters so much to both of us, and why we wanted to make the weaving of these two sort of magnificent and profound bodies of work together, or aspects, the weaving of aspects of it, available in a learning journey kind of experience for people. And for me, I think it's to do with raising awareness and raising choicefulness in the way in which we're living our lives. And I think that is uniquely attached to this capacity that you've just been talking so beautifully about, of being aware of the fact, not taking for granted this incredible power that we have, which is to be aware, to pay attention, and to pay attention you have to be aware. You can't you can't not be, you have to become aware. You have to become aware of who you're being. You have to become aware of where you are. You have to become aware of what's going on around you. You have to wake up, basically, to pay attention, to really grasp the full potential of this capacity that we've got to give attention and to cultivate so much awareness around it and the offering of it, that you also start to, I suppose, educate your environment to being able to offer it to you as well, so that you're also at the receiving end of it, and that you can offer it to yourself. You can pay attention to yourself. And I think what's the particular aspect of this that Thinking with the Heart and Mind addresses and gives people access to information and practices and skills development around is that we are already always falling asleep. You know, that the pull to a sleepness on this matter is, it's just there all the time. I mean, waking, you know, I've often said to people when they're in a thinking environment learning journey, I don't think there's any such thing as unconscious competence. You know, there's unconscious competence when it comes to driving a car. I mean, if you remember first learning to drive a car, you know, and somebody, I can remember it was my mum saying to me, there's a point where the clutch and the accelerator meet. And I can actually remember shouting at her one day, there is no point where the clutch and the accelerator meets, because I was just so frustrated with stalling all the time and I couldn't find that point. And now I don't even think about it. You know, I don't think about the point where the clutch and the accelerator meets. I've just got, you know, unconscious competence with regards to that. It's become habit. But waking up to attention, I think that's a perpetual conscious competence that we have to develop and develop and develop and keep developing. This goes back to what we spoke about in the dialogue that we had about the importance of practice and reflection. So I think that's one of the things that makes it, this program is uniquely about what it takes to stay awake to attention. What do you think?
I think there's a researcher by the name, I think I've got his first name potentially wrong, but I think it's Jim Cohen. And he's done some really interesting research. He kind of started with this question. I'm kind of really blunting it a little bit. He didn't only start with this question, there was much more to it. But one of the questions that was deeply informed his work was, why is it that animals, all living creatures, have a unique environment where they must be? You know, you can't take a polar bear out of the Arctic, or I'm not sure polar bears are in the Arctic, or the Antarctic, and you know, pop it into the Amazon. It's just not going to work for the polar bear. The same with you know, a rhinoceros. You're not going to be able to put a rhinoceros into, take it out of the savannas and put it into the ocean. The rhinoceros will not survive, and it certainly won't thrive. But yet humans have existed in almost every single, or they do exist in almost, they found a way to exist in almost every single ecosystem and or environment, call it. I'm not a environmentalist, so I may get the terminology wrong, but and so his theory is based on the fact that our ecosystem, or the environment in which humans need to survive and thrive, is other humans. Without other humans, humans actually can't survive and thrive. And I really, as you were thinking, I was really struck by the ways in which the thinking environment works off this founding question of what is it, we do all this thinking, and that thinking affects so many of our decisions, and our decisions affect so many of our outcomes. And if we want quality outcomes, then we need to be doing quality thinking. So what is it that enables and supports quality thinking? And it's striking that, the conclusion is, well, how we treat each other. And when you're engaging in any kind of meditative practice from any of the contemplative traditions, what you start doing is looking inside at how your mind is working, how you're treating yourself. And, a huge part of what we do in Thinking with the Heart and Mind is based on this weave of the fact that how we treat ourselves is informed by how we treat others, and how we treat others impacts how we treat ourselves. And if we can shine attention on that, then what we create is something very powerful with a huge amount of potential. So for me, I think that's the unescapable part of why attention is so pivotal to thinking with the heart and mind. And I guess it raises the question for me around, if attention is so important, what do we mean about the quality of attention? What do you think about that, Trisha?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, well, again, I think it goes back to awareness, and I'm loving with these dialogues that we're having how there are these certain threads that are weaving through from one dialogue to another, because I think one of the things for me that really drew me to the idea of doing this work with you, and I think emerged in our design of Thinking with the Heart in Mind, and got me so excited when I started to see it, and has me still so excited now, is that the quality of my attention when I'm offering it to you rests, if we look at this through a thinking environment lens, rests in my capacity to be able to be aware of where my attention is every moment of while I'm listening to you, and to consciously choose to place it in a very specific place, which is on having genuine interest in where your thinking is going, and to sustain my attention in that place requires me to be very aware of what's happening inside of me. So this point that you've made of the quality of how I can treat you in a way that enables you to access your best thinking also depends in the way in which I'm treating myself. And the practices that we're looking at in the thinking environment, in the Thinking with the Heart and Mind, from the contemplative practices, is all about how I treat myself, so that the quality of the attention that I offer you is free from the things that I can fall into the trap of, or ways of being that I can fall into the trap of, that are harmful towards myself, that are free from those things, so that the quality of my attention is filled with this awareness and this freedom to be with you, because I have a freedom to be with myself. And I think that's what I mean by the quality of attention in the context of Thinking with the Heart in Mind. What do you think?
I think in some ways the quality of attention, it falls for me into the territory of it's difficult to name. Qualities, they kind of it's almost like textures. You can sense them. It's harder to capture in language. But I do love the languaging of generative attention. This attention that's invested in the potential of where the thinking might go. And I think that that's a profound quality to invest in attention when someone is thinking, because it's so open-hearted and it's so open-minded, and it's so rooted in the truth of reality, which is not knowing and impermanence. It's this completely shifting, changing, nuanced, complex, evolving moment by moment. And so when I think about the quality of attention, I guess I'm infused by the promise of a generative attention.
Yeah.
Trisha,
Lovely.
thank you for your thinking. It's been so delightful to think with you on this topic. I think we could do a lot more thinking on this, I have the sense. But what do you think if we leave it there for now and pick up another time?
Absolutely. I'm sure it's going to circle back round again as a topic in future dialogues. Thanks for this.